Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we are doing a highly requested video, and by highly requested I mean one singular person asked for it, but that's enough for me. So today I'm going to be giving y'all a little breakdown of the stats that I had to get into the schools that I got into that you could see in my last video. So without further ado, let's get started. So I made a little list on my iPad of the stats that I think colleges look at. Obviously, disclaimer, I am not an admissions counselor. I am not an expert on college admissions by any means. I'm literally just a newly graduated high school student who's going to college in the fall. And I'm just trying to help others with their college journey and getting into college. But by no means is this, solidified advice of what you should be doing or anything like that. I'm just telling y'all how I got into the schools I got into and kind of what I did to try to make my chances better. So firstly, we have GPA, and I don't know how important these stats are to different schools, but these are just like kind of the basic stats that I think a lot of people talk about in regards to college admissions. So firstly, I have my GPA. So weighted, my GPA was a 4.4. Unweighted, I had a 3.9. My B's were in IB math, so that class was the bane of my existence, but I got through it. It was fine. So those were my GPA weighted and unweighted. Some schools don't do weighted, so it really is subjective. It depends on your school, but not having weighted GPAs at your school shouldn't hinder you because schools know that not everyone has the same grading systems and things like that. So don't let that deter you if the highest you can get is a 4.0, because it's just based on different scales. Next, we have the ACT and ACT. SAT and ACT, sorry. And so for that, I personally did not take the SAT for college admissions. I focused only on the ACT, and that's because that's just what my counselor recommended for me. I'm a strong reader, and SAT, while it does have reading as well, it has 2 sections of math, which is my weakest subject. And then ACT reading is like very straightforward if you're good at reading comprehension. So I decided to stick to the ACTs that I would have to do less math. The ACT also has the science section, which may deter people, but really it's just another section of reading, because you're just reading passages and interpreting them and reading graphs, which is kind of science math related, but it's mostly just reading passages that they give you. So for the ACT, I had a super score of 31. And so the breakdown of that, I got a 36 in reading, a 23 in math, a 30 in English, and a 32 in science. So, great score. I was super happy with it. That was after taking it twice, and I just decided that I was going to leave that be, and just go in with that. I personally also went completely not test optional, so I sent my scores to all of my schools, which was definitely a risk because a lot of the schools I applied to, they weren't, or they're very competitive and selective, and so a lot of people were submitting better scores than I was, than a 31, and just like higher scores in general. And so it was a bit of a risk, but my counselor advised me to send those scores in because for the African American community, I was in the 99th percentile. And so obviously things were a little different with affirmative action, but there were ways that I could have, let admissions counselors know that I was a person of color, such as like your personal essay and things like that, and like extracurriculars that you do. So I did that and then sent my test scores in for all of my schools, which, like I said, was a risk, but it seemed to work out fairly well. So that's my ACT scores. Next, we have curriculum, or like challenging curriculum levels. So personally, I was in the International Baccalaureate Diploma Program, which was the highest like level of curriculum that I could have taken at my personal high school. And this is obviously an international program, so it's very highly rated and a high level of curriculum globally. And so it's very well known just to colleges in general around the globe. So personally, like I said, I took the most challenging curriculum I could have at my school, and not all schools have the IB program, and that's okay. Don't freak out if your school doesn't have that. Just try to take the highest level of courses that your school does offer, whether that be AP classes. If they don't do that, take the honors classes. Just try to do as much as you can to separate yourself from the pack or the people you're in school with and people in your grade. Just try to take the hardest classes that you can so that colleges know that you are, trying to excel and do well in classes that may be harder for you or may be more challenging, because then they'll know that you're resilient and will do well at their schools personally. And so I do recommend trying to take the hardest courses that you can, unless you really do know that you can't handle it. And that's okay. Not everyone needs to take the hardest courses that they can, because they may have different, aspirations, and, totally fine. I'm just saying what I did personally. So I took the hardest courses that I could. So next we have class rank. Personally, our school, or my school, did not open the class ranks to us. We weren't able to see it until our senior year. And so I guess that's a little different. Maybe it's so that people don't get super anxious about it until it's really almost over. But honestly, I don't, this may be an unpopular opinion, hot take, I don't know. I don't think class rank really matters that much unless you're like the top three people, like valedictorian, salutatorian, and then like the third person, like top three. Um, because after that, like I feel like it doesn't matter that much to colleges, unless, like I said, valedictorian, salutatorian, maybe number three. So I'm not going to give you guys my actual number. I was in the top 10% of my class, technically top 5%, but my school didn't recognize top five, it was top 10. So I was in the top 10% of my class. And so, like I said, I don't think, like after salutatorian and valedictorian, it kind of just becomes a jumble of kind of percentages rather than the actual number you are. So don't worry too much about that. Unless you're the valedictorian and salutatorian, I don't think it's really going to matter all that much, just in my head. Because like I said, it's really, the number doesn't really matter as much after you get past those places. I think more percentage wise. Obviously, try to do your best, try to get that class rank up. But if you know that you're not going to be one or two or even three, don't stress about it too much, in my opinion. Just, breathe, don't harp on it, and just, move on, because those ranks will not define you whatsoever. If you're trying to go to college, I'm sure you will get in somewhere that it's perfect for you, that's in the plan for you. And honestly, after you get into college, no one cares about who the valedictorian and salutatorian are. It's everyone moves on with their lives. It's just like one little thing after at graduation, you have a speech, and then everyone kind of forgets about it. And obviously, it's a great achievement. Congratulations to everyone who got that high honor, but it doesn't define who you are as a person or define your life. So just don't worry too much about class rank. So next, I have extracurriculars. I did a good amount of extracurriculars. I didn't do too much, but I also didn't. I was very active at my school, and so I do recommend getting into extracurriculars early and trying to build up a foundation to potentially get a leadership role in extracurriculars that you enjoy. So I'll give you some examples of mine. I'm not going to list everything, but some extracurriculars that I really enjoyed. I played golf all throughout high school and became co-captain my junior year. I started freshman year, I became co-captain my junior year. I wrote for my school newspaper starting my junior year, and then senior year, I became a managing editor. And so I want to go into journalism as my career. So writing for the newspaper was something that was not only, fun to do, and looked good on my application to have a leadership role, but also it was good for colleges to see that I'm already trying to do something in the field that I want to major in and have a career in high school. So do try to find something that may relate to what you think you want to do um, in your future. Another thing, I was the co-president of the Black Student Union at my school. And so I had been in the Black Student Union since sophomore year. Freshman year was virtual, so the only extracurricular I did freshman year was golf because I was outdoors, so they let us do it. Um, but I didn't go to any other extracurriculars until sophomore year. So I started BSU sophomore year and became co-president senior year while I was secretary junior year. And then one final thing that I'll talk about is I was the head ambassador of prospective parent touring at my high school, which means that I gave tours to students and parents who were thinking of coming to my high school. And I just kind of told them about the school, showed them around. My school was huge, like actually humongous. And so it was nice to have let people, kind of get a feel of what the school actually is like when you're inside, because while it's humongous, it doesn't actually feel like too overwhelming once you're actually there and in school. So those are some extracurriculars I did. Like I said, I recommend trying to find something that you'd be interested in, that's fun, that you would enjoy actually going to meetings and being active in, but also something that you could see yourself doing in the future. Because, like I said, colleges like seeing stuff like that. Like for me personally, as you know in my last video, I'm going to UNC Chapel Hill, and I got a shared enrollment into the Hussman School of Journalism because they saw how I was already in the journalism pathway at my high school and thought that I could handle going straight into my major from freshman year. So things like that can really kind of boost you up and help you in the long run. So finally, hopefully I didn't forget anything. If I did, comment down below and I will be sure to answer any questions you have. If I forgot something that you're like, why didn't you talk about that? Lastly, I have letters of recommendation. This is pretty important, I would say, because most schools require at least one from like a regular core class teacher, and then maybe even another one from like a elective teacher or something like that, or not even teacher, just an extracurricular, someone you do extracurriculars with, an adult. And so I would say, try to first of all establish good relationships with your teachers. That's a big thing, because once you do that, like participate in class, ask questions if you need help, go to tutoring if you need tutoring, because they see that and they take note of it, how you're actually trying to, better yourself and get your education in the best way possible. And so, people always talk about, oh, like they're trying too hard and oh, they're a teacher's pet. Like, it's not being a teacher's pet to care about your education and to treat your teachers with respect. I mean, you don't have to go overboard and, try to bring others down and, do all that. I'm not saying that. Just be respectful, participate, and, in doing that, when you ask for a favor in return, they'll be more than happy to return that favor because they see that you are, trying to do the best for yourself. And so personally, I have always been, I've always had pretty good relationships with my teachers. And I have actually had teachers ask me to write me a letter of recommendation because they wanted to help me, get into the colleges that I wanted to get into. And so, that's an awesome feeling, knowing that people or teachers, like you enough and respect you enough to want to write you a letter of recommendation without you even asking. And so they're usually going to be complimentary if, you get a teacher that you've had a good relationship with. So build those relationships early, ask early, because there are only so many teachers, who teach juniors and seniors, because that's usually when you'll start asking. Probably senior year, honestly, because that's when you actually start applying and need them to send it in. There are only so many teachers that people ask for real. And so you need to ask early, establish that good relationship so that it'll be smooth sailing. You won't be scrambling to get those letter of recs like some of my friends did, because that gets stressful at times and it's last minute. You're like, oh crap, what's applications due now? And I still don't have a teacher to send me a letter of recommendation. And then the teachers get upset when it's still last minute. So just get it done early, build those good relationships, ask for those letter of recommendations. Usually you can't read them because they have like the confidentiality thing on the applications, but usually they'll, let you know, yes, like it was complimentary. You were a great student. Like, I'm happy to write this for you. So those were the stats that I thought of that colleges look for. Another thing, one more thing is, like, if you take AP and IB classes, they do see you in your application. You can put the scores that you received on those subject tests. So like I said, I did take AP classes my freshman and sophomore year because the IB program is only 2 years. So it was from junior to senior year. So the AP scores that I had, I did send those into colleges. And that was, I do think it helped boost my, like how I looked to colleges, boost my application. And then IB scores, those won't be in until after you're already into college. So that doesn't really matter as much unless you took business, which was the SL, which we're not going to get into, but that's a 1-year course and you could send those scores to colleges. But actually the IB scores come out on the 6th. So in a few days, we'll see, hopefully I get my diploma, but it's not the end of the world if I don't. And all of those people who are waiting for their scores, I hope the best for you. I hope we all get our diplomas. But subject score tests can also help you, get you credits for college and things like that. So do try your best on those tests at the end of the year. But that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. Like I said, if you have any more questions, if there are any stats that I missed that you'd want to know about, comment down below and I will get back to you as fast as I can. But have a great day. Thank you. Bye.